So welcome to our lunch Q&A, and it's really a lunch conversation. And today's topic, we are going to cover about overcoming challenges in working from home. And a lot of us, this might be new to some of us. So let me just share our panelists, a little bit more of our panelists. We have Yen, Miss Yo Mui Yen, here with us to share. And well, her credentials and her accolades are like super long, a lot of pages and pages. I don't know how to go into that, but it's she has been she's got national awards from Singapore on work life for the work that she has done. And she does consulting on work life integration, teaching, coaching. She is also with an organization that empowers women, working women also when it comes to working. And so really thank God that we have Yen here to share with us her experiences. And we also have Kenneth. So Kenneth is our lay leader in TPMC, and he has been serving in church for a very long time, also taking on many different portfolios. And we thank God that he can come here and share with us some of his personal experiences working from home, because Kenneth is has been managing how to work from home, and so we'll just hear from a lay person's perspective also. And we have Pastor here with us, so Pastor also to give us various inputs on from the biblical point of view, or when it comes to or any inputs that he might want to share as well for this topic. So I think we can start. So anytime you guys all want to ask a question, just feel free to pop it into the chat and we can pick it up from there. Okay, so maybe I'll start the session with a question to Yen, because not many people in Singapore, I don't think we really have a culture of working from home here in Singapore. But because of COVID-19, we are all forced to work from home, and it could be difficult for some of us, and we are learning how to manage it. And as I talk to people, I notice there's a common thread throughout that I'm hearing from different people. It's that they find that they're working longer hours when they're working from home, and the lines are just really blurred between personal time and work time. So we see a merger. There's no segregation. So maybe Yen, you can share with us a little bit about the background of this working from home concept, and should we what can we do about this whole issue about merging of personal life and work life?
Okay, thanks for the invitation. It's really my honor to be involved in this lunchtime session. And I spent over a quarter century working from home, because when my younger daughter was born, I was given the opportunity to work from home part-time. So this is an IT company, so there were plenty of infrastructure ready. And over the years, it's something that I will not give up, because I really love working from home. So I've gone through different stages of that. One of the things that we need to realize is that we all have our own preferred style of working. So some of us like to really separate work from personal life. And while some of us, like me, I work best when I have my Korean drama on, because it's moments of distraction, and then I get distressed a bit and I get back to doing my work. So we all have different styles of working, and that's why some of us will find it so good, while others will find it really stressful. But what has happened during the circuit breaker is that it was quite an unnatural situation. Because in normal time, you will not face the other stress of having the child at home, trying to do home-based learning, all the teething problems, and you also have to help the child. We will not hesitate to sometimes go down, take a walk and buy food, or we will not hesitate to go out and meet people for lunch and so on in the normal time. So the circuit breaker time is not the perfect way of looking at the benefits of working from home. But so what we need to do is to ask ourselves, are we the type that really need to separate ourselves? Like we need to get into a room so that we get into this mode of working. Some people really need to put on a certain shirt so that they feel that they're working, not because they need to look good in front of a customer, which is one key reason, but they need to kind of like mentally, physically feel that they are working. So for those of us who are experiencing challenges, I would say that first, know your style. That is the starting point. What is it that you like so far, and what is it that you don't like? So that's one of the first tips that I'll give to people.
When it comes to style, so you said a bit, are there like, kind of styles are there when it comes to working
Yeah.
home based? Yeah.
So one group of people really must separate. They
Okay.
cannot, if it's time to work, it is time to work. So for this group of people, if you're having trouble with that, you have young kids who don't understand, why is mommy, daddy not talking to me? I will tell you, make a mommy working, daddy working tag and hang it on the door. But you may have to make it very short, like every 1 hour, just 1 hour, just like you often go to the pantry. Every hour, you may need to come out and spend 5 minutes and say hello, hello, and then go back. But for those who are very good with doing all the things at the same dining table with your family, that's fine. Except that during meeting time, you may still have to move to a quiet place. So those are two kind of distinct styles. A group of people that need to separate, and the other group that functions very well in the mixing both things. But that's if your work allows you. And then there are people who can do either one, which is very much what I have kind of honed the skill. I can really dedicate myself to one area. I don't feel lonely. At the same time, I'm fine if I have to be with my family members and trying to resolve something, like going out to look at whether the cheng teng is cooked or not. Usually I get a burnt pot because I'm not good at doing things. Even cooking a simple thing like a dessert, I can smell the aroma of burnt sugar because I'm not used to that. So basically, two distinct styles. And maybe I want to ask even the panel here. I mean, what do you think comes to your mind about your style as far as what you know? Whether you are the separated type or you are those that can integrate and function with both?
I think for me, I swing to both. Yeah. What about Kenneth or Pastor?
Yeah, similarly, I'm able to swing from between the two modes. A bit of myself as well. I used to work from home quite a bit before going to the public service, and even during the public service time, I'm also having opportunities to work from home. So sometimes it gets a bit distracting, and that's where I think we set certain boundaries with our children to say, hey, during this period, we will have to focus on our work. So please don't disturb us. And because my kids are a bit older, so they understand, and they will just leave us alone. And then only during emergencies, they'll come to us and say, hey, I really need help. And we play by ear, there's no hard and fast rule. I think it's about exercising a lot of flexibility while you're at home. And the more flexible and adaptable you are, I think you'll be able to cope better.
Okay, thanks, Kenneth. Yeah, going back to Yen. So I pick up that in terms of flex styles, we have one which we call an integrator, right? Can integrate a lot of things all together. One which is a separator, no need to separate and talk about like compartmentalize that. Yeah. Then one where it's more you can swing from either or one or the other. Yeah. So that those are the styles of working from home. But then what about the issue then that there's this whole merging? So are we supposed to expect it that work and life is going to be like that from now on, expecting and accept it, or should we and can we actually have healthy boundaries? Because I've been reading things and some people say, yeah, we actually should have boundaries and all that. So should we and can we do that?
Well, for me, the most important person is myself. That means I have to be very well in order to meet the needs of my family and in order to meet the needs of work. So I have to be very conscious about what affects me. So I'm very thankful that for working from home, I mean, in order to start work in the past, we want to start work at 9. It means that about 7:30, you got to get out, you change, you get caught in a traffic jam, you get caught in an MRT and all those things. But I'm very thankful that with that, I start the day seeking what is most important to me, because I now have 1.5 hours extra. So that sets my pace, and I'm really very thankful that I can have a right start. The most important thing to start it the right way, right? And then after that, I have an extra hour between 8 to 9 where I can decide what I want to do, whether I want to exercise or whether I want to start my email. So I do draw the boundary, but I cannot expect that my staff will all start work at 7:30, 8 o'clock like me, right? So we need to have in our mind to be very clear what our needs are, how do we need to take care of ourselves. And for most of us, if we do go to the office in the past, we will aim to leave by about 6:30, 6 o'clock, so that we can be home for dinner. So to me, I encourage everyone to draw that same boundary at home. To say that once it's 6:30, 6 o'clock, and if you are a boss who is able to call for meeting, please try not to call for meeting after 5 or 5:30. We have a term called the blue sky day, where you allow your staff to go and look at the blue sky. But in this case, because we may tend to think that after you're at home already, no traffic jam. If you leave at 6 o'clock, you reach home at 7:30, right? So I must have the meeting at 6 o'clock. You still start having your dinner at 7:30. So if you're in a position to implement that for your staff, your team, then don't start meeting later than say 5:30. But if you are not in that position, it's okay. You still have the responsibility to take care of your own needs and your family needs. And I think we should be able to voice out to say that if possible, unless it's urgent matter, I like to have some off by 6:30 so that I can take care of some of my personal things, but I can always check the email again if there's an urgent need. So I encourage everyone to draw your clear boundary, because there are still other things in life that we need to take care of. But we need to start with the most important thing, whether it is even exercising, spending time with our loved ones. Those are the fundamentals that we take care of. So you ask me about boundary, we have to draw a boundary. If the boundary is not what it should be, let's find the wisdom to communicate our need so that we can be in the best shape to perform well for the job as well.
Okay, so it's really also a lot of open communication with colleagues and bosses on expectations and understanding of how we work and the styles and the timing as well. So I want to bounce over to Kenneth now, because just now you also talked a little bit about boundaries and all that. And now, coming from the personal point of view, as someone who is working, but you're a father as well, looking after kids, and I know it's very challenging now. Like Yen said, typically work from home, you don't have the kids at home all the time. But now with an additional, having the kids 24/7 at home all the time because they are home based as well. How do you manage, having your time in terms of working as well as managing the kids and talking about boundaries?
Yeah, I think the key word here is really communication. If your kids are of a certain age, then they tend to be able to understand and appreciate it. I think it varies from kids to kids. I must say I'm blessed with kids who are a bit more understanding and can get the idea when we either raise a bit of our voice or we give them that look. But I think it's really talking to your children to make sure that they understand there's working hours, and when you are at the computer and you are really focused, they are to stay away from you. In fact, sometimes your body language will sort of like give away that you're actually serious and at work. But I can't overemphasize the fact that that open communication and the continuous, sometimes like a nag to them, to tell them that they need to leave us alone during those hours, and that they will get the point. So I hate to use the word, but sometimes nagging does help, coming from a man. Yeah, so it's really telling them, and after a while, I think they get the message, they get the rhythm, and I think I'd like to also say that if you have some structured time for work and structured time for relaxation and off work, then they would be able to pick up that same momentum as well. So it's good advice for from Ian to say, hey, there's a certain time core work hours that you need to set aside, and then your kids will also be able to intuitively know when to disturb you or when not to disturb you.
Yeah, I think for both of us, because our kids are older, so mine are teenagers also, so they're a little bit more independent. It's easier. But what I did find helpful was having a timetable for them, so a schedule. So there's a time for exercise, there's a time for gadgets, there's a time for studying, there's a time for housework. So having a routine set at home could be helpful for those with children as well, to give them some structure at home. Yeah. Let me also then
Let me just say a few things.
Yes,
When I started working from home, this is 25 years ago. So I had a newborn baby, and the other daughter was 4-year-old. So definitely, bosses and all, unlike the circuit breaker period where people understand that it's a situation where the kids have to be at home. Once the boss pay you a salary, they expect you to deliver the work, and the customer who pays you to provide a solution expect good service as well. So I think in this circuit breaker time, people are a little bit more understanding when there's some noise at the back or when there's some disruption. So don't hesitate to tell the person that the child just fell. I need to attend to it, or let's be very frank, because we know what is important to us. What I did when the kids were really young was that I would set for my daughter her own task. Like, okay, this is jigsaw puzzle. She had a little, at that time, even 25 years ago, there were all these toy laptop, and she enjoyed sitting beside me, and she was doing her toy laptop and so on. So there are things that we need to work on to help them be, really having fun time as well while we couldn't spend with them. One of the things that I found most useful is to spend time with them even in the day. So right now, lunch, maybe out of 5 lunches a week, one may be with team members, we all eat together, Zoom and eat and talk. But the other lunches, you may want to spend time with the kids. I do not know about teenagers, whether they want to eat with you or they prefer to be Zooming with their friends. But as far as young ones are concerned, I think really sitting down with them, half an hour, having fun, or 1 hour, because you're entitled, it's your lunchtime. The same for morning. If I even read books to my daughter before I start work. So it's like, we already got that fun time. Now they're happy to do their own things and have their own space. So I encourage parents who maybe your kids are younger to really spend, now that you don't need to travel, you're not in traffic jam, to spend those time with your family so that that the emotional tank is filled and you can then be doing your own work. So it's very tough time for businesses. So we do need to understand why sometimes the bosses and the colleagues are a little bit more demanding than they are normally are, because lots of business are at risk. So while we have our own personal and family needs, we need to understand that there's also the business perspective as well. And as Kenneth pointed out, communication is the most important. We have to communicate. If we have challenges, we have to share. If we have suggestion, let's give constructive suggestion as well.
Yeah.
Just to add on to Ian's comment about setting up like new times, I think these are very practical slots that you can try to spend with your family, and I think there's a lot of value in ensuring that you really fill up their emotional tank. So that's what we do as well. We, like my family, we try to do not breakfast. Breakfast would be between my wife and myself, but lunch, we make sure that everybody's on the table, and dinner as well. At least you get to communicate. You find out a bit about them, and I think the more you do that, they tend to realize that yes, there's time for play, there's time for mommy and daddy, and there's time for work.
Yeah. So I think both of you spoke about this thing about emotional tank. Yeah. So when it comes to children, it's not just about the time spent with them, but it's really being there, centered, being focused, giving them that attention that they need for that particular moment in time, and filling up that emotional tank as well for them. And I think I like what you said, Yan, about if we are at a meeting, just we can be open to our colleagues and our bosses and say, oh, okay, give me a moment, my kid is here, or what. And it's really a time for all of us to also be aware and know that we need to show empathy to one another. Empathy, compassion, and kindness, especially during this time, and for those with parents also, and be understanding towards it, because sometimes we don't understand how the whole situation is like. There's space constraints there are very young kids to have to handle, and so empathy goes a long way during this circuit breaker where all of us are working from home. I want to jump on to the next topic or the next question. And Yan, you talked a little bit about that. So when it comes to flex styles and working with our bosses, we are accountable to our bosses also, right? And our business partners, we have to show output, we have to deliver as well. But I do hear from quite a number of people that, they say that, it's my bosses want me to get back to them really quickly now, because they are also scrambling and managing this difficult period as well, right? They also have clients, they have accountabilities about how. And then what say if your flex style is one of separator, but your boss is an integrator? So anytime I also can call you, text you, and then I'm sure there's going to be a clash, right, when it comes to this. And then how do you manage your boss when there are all these demands?
Okay, I think for there are quite a few crises that's happening as far as the business sector is concerned. And as I said, one of the priorities is if the business doesn't survive, then we may not have jobs anymore. So I can understand why there's a lot of pressure. As shared earlier, really it's about communication. If it's something we can do, let's do. If we can respond, let's make somebody else work easier. But if it's really a specific time in the midst of while we're having a dinner, let's just say, is it okay if I answer you a little bit later? And I mean, I always joke, when you're in the office, you can see who is in the toilet. But when people work from home, you don't know who is in the toilet. All right, so there will be times, and we go to the extreme end and say, may I call you now? May I message you now? And that's not the way we work in the office. So I think it's on both sides that if we can't answer for a certain reason, let's just tell them the reason. Just say we are engaged now. Can I get back to you by this time? And if we can't, let's just communicate why it's difficult. So there are different people, different managers with different style, and that's why sometimes we leave the job, not because of the job, but because of bosses. But in this time, we really need to realize that there's pressure from many aspects. So if we receive an email, it's our own personal discipline, whether we think it's important to reply right now because of the urgency, or is that just because the boss has a style where anything he wants, he will just get it off. So, because I talk a lot about work life, right? And I always work on Saturday morning, and people will ask me, Saturday morning? Why are you working on Saturday morning? You're sending out all the emails on a Saturday morning. I say, yes, because my family, at that time, my kids were young, they're still sleeping. I'm just watching my K-drama, and to justify my time watching K-drama, the best thing is to be productive on email. So I'll send out all the emails. It gets the thing off my mind so that I don't have to work on Sunday night, or I don't have to wake up on Monday knowing that there's so much to do. It helps me personally, but I didn't expect any reply. And in fact, those who work with me know that if I ever send a message on weekend, I'll tell them, please don't reply. I will even go to the extent. So we do have different kind of bosses. We will have to look at the big picture. Why in some cases we will respond, and why in some cases we will communicate our challenges. But overall, we need to know, is this the team we want to work with? Are we doing what is required of us, and what we're doing that is the best for ourselves as well as for the company? So I don't know if that answers you. So communication again, and establishing the core hours of work. For example, I have somebody who I wanted to talk to, and he said, no, 8:30, I'm putting my kid to sleep now, And I said, okay, how long will it take? And I could wait. So let's be very frank, because to me, it's that, what, 8:30, your kid goes to sleep? It's like, isn't it some of us are still working the office, right? So we all have different family situation, and because of the work from home, it is being blurred at this moment, and we do need to adjust. Everybody is in a mode of adjustment under stress. It's not even normal adjustment, it's under stress.
That's so true. Yeah, at this point in time, I want to open up for any questions if anybody has. We've talked about different flex styles. We've talked about setting boundaries. We've talked about working at home with kids. I know some of you in the participant list, you have children as well. Any of you would like to ask any questions or even share your point of view also? Feel free to unmute yourself and just share your questions or your opinion on things. Anyone? Yeah, you can do that. We're going to pause for a moment to see if there are any more questions coming in from anyone. So like I said, this is really like a lunch where we are sitting down together and having a meal together and just talking openly about this topic about work-life harmony. So any questions from anyone so far?
For me, it's not so much of a question, but I thought just to pick up on Ian's comment about sending a text before calling. I think I really appreciate people who do that, because sometimes you might be caught in a meeting or something. You don't have the bandwidth to take up the call, and when it rings, it's distracting. So I find that a very good practice if we are planning to call someone. It just shows a bit more respect to the person's time, and to give the person enough time to react and say, okay, I'm ready for a call, let's do the call.
I agree. Yes, I agree. So I think some of our interaction etiquette have changed, because in the workplace, if the boss sees that you're not on the phone, the boss will just walk there and say, hey, this thing how, But now, because we can't see, we need to do this. But also as a result, there'll be people that are upset that, the boss will call every half an hour call. Actually, I'm in the midst of doing this, but they call. So let's recognize that there are differences and there are challenges. So some would say that if we agree, if you're in a situation where the office hour from 9 to 6, you are able to answer, then it's up to the team to have that interaction. One of the things that I want to encourage as we move towards the end of this session is for us to keep on building relationship. All right, just because we don't see each other, we need even more effort in building relationship. So pick up the phone and talk, and even look at each other, and not just depend on, I know that this whole generation is about WhatsApp and Telegram and whatever else that you don't show a face, but let's pick up the phone, because things get much more productive when you just talk quickly, clarify, and it takes, I'm not sure whether anybody really type faster than they will speak, but I think most time the interaction is the warmth of the voice. So we need to recognize some of the things that are not perfect at this moment and try to counter that. And I really encourage you, for everyone that is watching this now, make sure you at least have a lunch with 1 or 2 colleagues over Zoom each week. All right, and if it's so nice, if you can order, your colleague's favorite food, surprise the person. Say, today there'll be a surprise. Order the Grab food and get it delivered there. All right, so we need the extra touch to just get everybody, get the relationship going, so that the teamwork will be there. And I think that usually at lunchtime, you don't kind of say bad things. You will say nice things, it's warm, and that's why we meet our kakis over lunch. You will talk about what's happening in your life, anything happening. So I really, this is a challenge from this session, that I hope everyone that is working from home now, for the next, although it's out of the circuit breaker, but most of us are still working from home, challenge yourself to have at least a Zoom lunch with 1 or 2 colleagues once a week. Other time you can have lunch with your family or your other friends, but I really challenge you to do that. So if you can do that, report to Agnes, and then we know that this is doing well. If you can post a picture of you having that lunch, that would be wonderful encouragement for everybody that we are making extra effort, because we are having a tough time. Businesses, as I say, are stressed. Lots of things are happening, and we really need to encourage one another on for this tough time. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. I know there are some colleagues that are doing Zoom workouts, exercise together as well, apart from eating. So yeah, I totally agree. The connection, there needs to be a lot more intentionality in connecting, and that not losing that human touch with one another. The questions are always still open if anyone wants to type in a question under the chat, but we're going to wrap up soon because we did say it's a half an hour session. But I'm going to post maybe one last question to Kenneth, but it's open to all, for even Pastor, if you want to give your inputs, and for Yen as well. We all know that Singapore ranks quite poorly in work-life balance or work-life harmony. We are second most overworked city in some studies. And even pastors, those in full-time ministry work, are not spared from being overworked or having high burnout rates. Yet, from a biblical perspective, I mean, we are Christians here, and God modeled for us to balance between excellence in what we do and also rest, because he did show, and he did, creation was 6 days, and God created everything good, but he rested also on the seventh day. And also in the Bible, we talk about the year of Jubilee, and Jubilee is supposed to be a year of rest for the people, they don't work, rest for the land, that's where they let the land actually rest as well, a year of liberation for slaves to be set free. And actually T.P.M.C, we are celebrating our Jubilee year this year, but we haven't been able to have much of the celebrations in place. But I'm just wondering, are we now seeing we are becoming slaves to work instead of being liberated, having that rest? How do we balance between excellence in work for God? We want to honor God in our work. We are told that as we work for God, not for men. We want to honor God there in excellence, but we also want to be able to have rest as well. So, or is it we don't know how to rest? Are we a people that don't know how to rest? So yeah, Kenneth, Yen, Pastor, any one of you want to take this?
Yeah, maybe I'll just respond. I'll just try to respond in two parts. The first part is about sharing some reflections, and then possibly sharing some practical steps we can possibly take. But in between, if pastors, Ian, if you've got certain comments, write on it and then just add in. So I'd like to suggest that the quality of our restedness is closely knitted to the trust or the condition of our faith. So as we place more faith in God and less emphasis in our own efforts, the more rested we are. So as we look at work and think about work, and while it's good and excellent, sometimes the results are usually beyond our control. So we rest our results on our work to God. The more we realize that, the more we let go and let God, and I think we'll rest better. We then approach our work by delivering excellence while leaving results to God, surrendering and resting in His sovereignty. Just a word of caution, in the quest for our excellence, for some of us, we may be bordering a quest of perfection, which is actually an unrealistic goal, and it does cause us to burn out eventually. So some practical steps, now that we've established that we are meant to entrust results to God, and knowing that there is really nothing else we can really do, then we rest by three things: reflecting and recognizing that God has called us to work and to the work that we are doing, and we accord glory to Him alone. And number two, reprioritize our work that would have the most impact for what we are called to do, and do them well. So there will be a lot of other things that people will ask us to do and kind of thing, but how do we ensure that the most important work, the most impactful work is done first, and we do it well? And third, preparing ourselves for our next challenge by intentionally buffering enough time to rest physically and emotionally. So how do we do that? Well, I mean, all of us know, right? We ensure that we have enough regular sleep. I think some of us, especially those very high achievers, you hardly get 7 hours of sleep. What's recommended is at least 7 hours of sleep a night, and that's the demand of our body. So make sure we get enough sleep and get enough exercise. I see that during the COVID, a lot of people are exercising more. Quite surprising. I guess there's a lot of pent up energy. But why are we only doing it during COVID? You know, I mean, post-COVID, I think we should continue to make sure that we get enough exercise. We know all the good advice given by medical doctors, and why not get yourself into a exercise routine, and then eat healthy. Make sure you eat healthy. So just now we're just talking about cooking. One of the things that I ensure when I cook, apart from the taste, I ensure that everybody gets enough nutrition. So a bit of a nutrition thing that goes in the food that I cook. And then, of course, don't forget your chill time. I think there's a lot of time that's required for you to just watch Korean dramas, if you are a fan of it, or whatever other that appeals to you. So yeah, so these are the few thoughts and reflection. I hope it's helpful.
Yeah, I think for me, I always remind myself that I am so wonderfully made. And I have that big responsibility to take care of this precious me so that I can do the work that I have to do. So for me, when we talk about balance, we tend to think that balance and rest means lie in a bed and do nothing. But rest comes in many forms. One of the best forms for me is when my brain becomes very cluttered and all is now with internet, we can listen. If we are too tired to read because our eyes has been on the screen for too long, there are online sermons that we can listen to. There are praise and worship that we can listen to. And those to me are rest time. So rest doesn't mean do nothing. So when we rest, the what, how we rest and all matter as well, especially when you are drained. So work-life balance is not about 50-50. It's nothing like that. It's about how do you get into the best state all the time so that you can do the work that we have to do. So rest is really, really important, as Agnes pointed out. You know, we are designed to rest, and we do need to rest carefully. I mean, if rest is playing into midnight computer games or watching drama till the eyes are swollen, I don't think that is rest. So we just have to be very wise about knowing when to rest and how to rest and what rest is all about to us. So I encourage everyone during this time, as Kenneth pointed out, we are even more conscious about taking our health, and because we work from home, we can better manage our time. We have the extra almost 2 hours of traveling time extra now. And then what do we do with that time? So that's a great opportunity for us to get into a different habit, so that even if we had to go back to work for some of the days, we will still be able to maintain some of these habits that we have already inculcated during this period. So it's really a window opportunity for us to fine-tune that work-life harmony that is so needed.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I think you mentioned earlier that that to remember that we are wonderfully made, and that Psalms 139 verse 14 says that I praise you, praising God, because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well, and I think it's important that we remember that our body is a temple of God, and that we also take care of ourselves by resting, knowing that God made us feel wonderfully as well. Pastor Zhe Hui, maybe I think you're going to say something, so I'm going to end this time with Pastor Zhe Hui having the last words, and then he can wrap up in prayer as well for us, Pastor.
Okay. Well, I didn't know I was going to have the last word, but I want to thank Kenneth and Ian for sharing and from your experiences, and I think there were some good points there that I wanted to just reflect on, give a final reflection also. But on the question on rest and work and setting aside time and all that, something that has helped me to grapple with this thing called work-life balance or rest and work and all that is that there's this account of Jesus in Mark chapter 6. I'm not going to read the passage, but essentially it's a time when Jesus actually did his disciples had gone through a very intense period of ministry. And they came back reporting, giving him good report and all that. And he actually told them, come away with me to a quiet place to rest. And then they took a short journey to apparently go to somewhere quiet to rest. But when they reached the place, there was a whole horde of people who came to Jesus wanting ministry, and Jesus didn't back away from them and rest. He saw them and he had compassion on them, and he continued in ministry with them. And I think that for me was Jesus, one, recognizing that we need rest, but two, that there are certain seasons where sometimes that rest just maybe that physical rest is not possible, and we got to maybe reframe what we mean by what is our life's purpose, and act accordingly. So I guess in a way is to, well, I don't know if I'm saying this because I'm a pastor, but I really believe in it. Your faith and your theology, what you understand of God, and how you reflect on Him in Scripture, will affect your values. Your values will affect your priorities, and your priorities will sort of determine what rest looks like to you, and when to rest. And I remember in a global leadership summit, there was this a speaker, I can't remember his name, but he helped me to reframe my understanding of balance. He said that very often we think of a balance like a seesaw, you know, and if there is something in work increases and something in family, it seems like you have to spend more time at work. So, and you think that to balance it, that means you have to spend more time with the family. But he asked me, he said that, what if you can move the fulcrum? What if the balance is not so much of how much you can, or how much you must reduce from your work in order to balance the thing, but moving the fulcrum to know where you should spend more time on. So that helped me understand balance a little bit more. That different seasons may require you to spend different amounts of time on different things, and you really need to seek the Lord on how to discern that for yourself. And it could well be that if your family is facing a lot of stress at this time, then like what the panelists have said already, then maybe you have to set aside time to attend to your family also. So those are just some quick closing reflections. And I thought to just point out two things from whatever has been shared already to highlight it. The first is the key of communication, keep communicating. And I think especially to bosses, one of the things that maybe can help in our way of communicating with the people that we report to is always communicate from a position of what can you do and not what can you not do. So like when your bosses ask you something, don't say I cannot do that, or no, I don't want to do this at this time. But I think Ian hinted at that in the way she phrased her words also, is can I do this instead? Always offer an alternative to what you can do, so that people understand that you are not trying to not work, right? And you have genuine concerns, but you are also trying to be on the side of the company and contribute. And the second thing is relationships. I think there is an emphasis there, continue to build relationships with your colleagues, but also with your family, and of course there is a certain order in our relationships also, and you got to know the right priorities for that. So I leave that with you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
And thank you to Kenneth and Yen also. So we're going to wrap up for today. Sorry we took a little longer. Can I invite Pastor to close us in prayer?
Sure, come, let's pray. Father, thank you for Kenneth and Ian, who has taken time to come and share insights with us, insights from their lives and insights from their faith. We ask that you bless them, but we ask also that you bless all of us and everyone who is facing challenges in working from home. We pray that you be very near them, to give them wisdom, to give them rest, and to enable them, Lord, to build deep relationships even in this time. Lord, we look to you for help, and we look to you because you, O Lord, ultimately are the one who gives us rest. So we commit our lives to you, thanking you that you look upon our lives as valuable, and that you will take care of us. Thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy your lunch.
This wraps up for today. Have a good week ahead, everyone. Bye.
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 Thank you so much.